What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ravi Wadden, and today we're going to do something a little bit different on this channel. We're actually going to talk about how to spot a bad lease deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a 2024 Chevy Suburban lease deal that Chevy is advertising on their website, and I'll show you why this is a bad lease deal in terms of value. So what we'll do is we'll head to the website, we'll look at the lease deal and the lease terms in detail. We'll just talk about it, really quickly, and then we'll run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Chevy Suburban. And typically you want to have a number less than 1.5%, and this Chevy Suburban is way over 1.5%, but we'll run the calculation and you can run it on your own for any other car. And then in the last part of this video, what we'll do is we'll compare the finance payments to the lease payments, and you'll see why leasing this particular SUV makes little to no financial sense at all. So if that sounds good to you, please be sure to like this video and please be sure to follow or subscribe. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the computer behind me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on Chevy's website, Chevrolet.com. As you can see, now the zip code that I'm using for this video is 98101. This is a Seattle area zip code, and lease terms can be different, or lease deals can be different depending on where you live because they're typically regional. But anyways, here is the Chevy Suburban lease deal that I'm talking about. As you can see, you can lease a 2024 Chevy Suburban 4-wheel drive LT for $879 a month. It's a 39-month lease with a whopping $9,769 due at signing after all offers. Now, as you can see, this does allow for 32,500 miles, which is essentially 10,000 miles a year because this is a 39-month lease. Now, really quickly, let's talk about the due at signing amount. Not only is this due at signing amount really large, like you should never put almost $10,000 down on a lease. You should try to put the least amount of money possible on a lease. But even if a dealer gave you this deal as a sign and drive deal, and a sign and drive deal pretty much takes this due at signing amount of $9,700, they roll in all taxes and fees into the monthly payment, and the monthly payment typically increases, but you do have to put nothing down at signing. This still isn't a good lease deal. But if we take a look at the fine print, you'll see that this particular Chevy Suburban has an MSRP of $69,695, and you'll see how this comes into play when we run the 1.25% rule of leasing on this particular truck. Now, besides being a bad lease in terms of value, this is also a bad lease because this is a 39-month lease. And if you follow Chevy or GMC products, they typically have a three-year warranty, that allows for 36,000 miles. So whatever comes first. And this is a 39-month lease. Now, this isn't a big risk, but you're going to have 3 months where this vehicle will be outside of its warranty range. Now, the powertrain warranty is probably longer than 3 years, 36,000 miles. But let's say a window motor goes out, or a wiper motor goes out, or maybe even you have some kind of electronic issues in month 37. That won't be covered by warranty. So that also is something that you want to look out for when it comes to leases. But let's go ahead and run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Chevy Suburban. So let's go ahead and take the $9,769 that's due at signing, and we'll subtract the monthly payment of $879 from that amount, since it's included in the due at signing amount. And then what we'll do is we'll take this $8,890 and we'll divide it by 39, since this is a 39-month lease, and that breaks that due at signing amount into 39 equal parts, and you get $227. Then we'll add the $879 monthly payment back in, and that gives us a pre-tax monthly payment with $0 down of a little over $1,100. I'll multiply this by 1.1 just to account for 10% sales tax on the payment, and that gives us a $0 down monthly payment of $1,217. Now what I'll do is I'll divide this by the MSRP of this truck. It was $69,695. I just had to double check that. We'll divide this by $69,695. That gives us 0.0175, and multiply this by 100 to move the decimal point over 2 spots and make it a percentage. And when you do that, you get 1.74%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the way the 1.25% rule of leasing works is that anytime you take the monthly payment on a car with $0 down, including taxes, like I just did, and I got $1,200 $71, I believe it was, and you divide it by the vehicle's MSRP, and you get a number less than 1.5%, that's a good lease deal. If you get a number less than 1.25%, that's a great lease deal. And if you get a number less than 1%, that's an amazing lease deal. And that's usually just reserved for plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles in this market because they do qualify for the $7,500 EV tax credit. But as you saw with this Chevy Suburban, you get 1.74%, which is well above the 1.5% threshold. So in terms of value, this is a terrible lease deal. And let's not forget that we're not including tax and registration into this 1.25% calculation. So typically the deals on DriveMatch.com, they include all registration, all taxes, all fees. Well, this calculation did include taxes, fees. So that's probably an additional $2,000 at least, and that's not even factored in. And if you factor that in, this deal gets even worse. But let's go ahead and jump into the car payment calculator, and I'll show you why leasing this truck or leasing this SUV doesn't make sense. You're probably better off financing this car or this SUV if you really, really wanted this particular vehicle. So let's go ahead and use a vehicle selling price of the MSRP, which is $69,695. Let's use a 72-month loan term, an interest rate of 5%. We won't put any money down because I didn't put any money down in the leasing calculation that I just did in the previous section of this video. And then we'll use a sales tax rate of 10%, but we won't include title registration and other fees of $2,300 in this loan. So let's go ahead and just zero this out. And then if we hit calculate, you'll see that the monthly payment on this car is $1,122 if you were to finance this car for 72 months at 5%. So the finance payment is actually lower than the lease payment, which is $1,217. And the finance payment, you don't really have a mileage restriction. With the lease payment, you do because it's based on 10,000 miles. And additionally, this finance payment is really based on the fact that you're not getting any discount on the car. I mean, let's be realistic. You could probably negotiate, I don't know, let's just say $6,000 on this truck, maybe close to 10%. So let's go ahead and use a selling price of $63,695. And when you do that, your monthly payment drops further down to $1,025 a month compared to $1,217 a month if you were to lease this car. And typically, whenever I do these lease deal videos, you'll see that the lease payment is much lower than the finance payment. And if you got a better interest rate from Chevy, let's just say you qualified for, a 1.99% loan. I don't know what the offer is right now. I'm just running some numbers here. That lowers the payment even more to $939 a month compared to $1,217. So hopefully, this shows you why the 1.25% rule of leasing really comes into play, and why I try to tell you guys to get under 1.5%, because anytime you're over 1.5%, you can see the economics just don't make sense. So with that, I'm gonna call it a video. I hope you guys like this video because I typically talk about good lease deals, and with this one I really wanted to talk about bad lease deals and how you can spot a bad lease deal on your own. But if you have any questions about car leasing, or if you have any other questions about DriveMatch, and DriveMatch is a company that I co-founded where you can get pre-negotiated lease deals, and every lease deal on DriveMatch meets the 1.5% criteria, so we don't post the car if it's not a good lease deal. If you have any questions about leasing in general, or about DriveMatch, or anything else personal finance related, please let me know in the comment section below and I will get back to you. But with that, I'm gonna call it a video. Thank you all for watching. Financial knowledge is power. Please like and follow for more.